Haha. Yo, 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 who's up at night? I like these late night live streams, you know what I'm saying? So I know it's a little late for everybody, but the way I work in the studio, I really tend to be kind of a night owl. I get stuff done at night, middle of the day, then I take a break and do exercise, and then I'm back doing more stuff at night. So I apologize if this is late for everybody, but I know it's late. It's a Sunday night. But man, if you in here, say what's up. But yeah, I actually wanted to chop it up with other people who are fond of synthesizers and keyboards. And, you know what I mean? So I'm thinking about buying more. As you can see, I have a couple here. There's a Prophet 6, Yamaha CP73. Then I got, we got the Krumar Spirit, and there's a Mantis, and then MPC right there, So doing it on, real humble. But yeah, man. So I'm considering buying more synthesizers, but the problem is some of the ones that I want haven't come out yet. So there's this new one that I want all my music lovers, all my synthesizer lovers and studio gearheads. I want y'all to check out this new analog synthesizer that's supposed to drop this year. It's called Magnolia. It's called Magnolia Polyphonic Analog Synthesizer, and it's by this Italian company called Frapp Tools. Kind of a funny name, but they came up with a pretty dope keyboard that I've been checking out on YouTube videos. They put out a lot of like demonstrations at different keyboard events, different synthesizer events. They have demonstrated it, and man, when I tell you this board has some crazy presets on there, man, it almost sounds like it's like a combination of like Prophet 6 combined with a Model 002 combined with a I don't know, just like it's like I feel like it combines the best of a bunch of different synthesizers I've heard, but it sounds completely new and original. And so some of the presets that I've heard on there are just super, super mind blowing, like just unique textures. And this is like nerd talk for people who are really into keyboards and synthesizers. But not too many people on right now. I know it's super late. Most of you are snoring in bed, and probably too late for you to watch this, but I'm a night owl, so I figured I would just say what's up if anybody's online, but don't look like it. So I think most of you will see this on the replay, but you know what I mean? So I'm considering buying more synthesizers, and the first one on my list is the Magnolia. The Magnolia, crazy work. So you just got to go check it out. Type in Magnolia analog synthesizer in the YouTube search bar and check out some of the demos of this synthesizer, man. It's some of the sounds on there are absolutely crazy. Some of the pads just absolutely crazy. And I've only heard maybe like no more than 7 sounds tops on it. So as far as I know, it's going to be loaded with obviously hundreds and hundreds of presets. So, when I get a synthesizer, I like to have a lot of great presets on board. That's why I love Dave Smith and Sequential Products, because they load you up with a lot of great presets, and then you can tweak and make your own stuff, but they already give you so much great sounds that tweaking the synthesizer is really just light work because you have so much great stuff to start with. Unlike the Moog 1 was a very difficult synthesizer, meaning that you got to spend hours and hours of tweaking to actually pull some quality sounds, some nice sounds out of it. So I owned the Moog 1 for a couple years, and I still love what I was able to do with it. I still love what I was able to do with the sounds on the Moog 1, but I ultimately got bored of it and ended up selling it because I was struggling to really find usable sounds. So I had created, a preset pack that I actually still sell on my website, Moog 1 Presets by T Sway. That took me like almost a year and a half to create those sounds, and those were all my original presets. Thousands of hours of tweaking sounds for days and days. And I used those for a lot of my most popular tracks. And aside from that, though, I wasn't able to tweak much more sounds that I really enjoyed. And the onboard sounds that came with the Moog 1 were kind of weak in a way. They kind of just were not worth, the $6,000-$7,000 price tag. I had the 8-voice version, but the 8-voice version. But I really thought that they really cheated people on the presets, which Moog, if you hear this video, I love your products, but man, you should really reload that Moog 1 with more presets. It's really lacking. I'm not the only one who said that. Like, the presets on the Moog 1 they're very underwhelming and lacking. And I think they need to do a better job with that. Perhaps you guys can put some of my sounds on your next batch of Moog 1s, maybe. Because I have sold quite a few packs of my Moog 1 preset pack. And, it took me a long time to actually develop those sounds. And, but again, I didn't feel like spending another 2 years developing another 30 sounds. I just kind of got frustrated because, what it takes to make a great synthesizer is they got to get the best sound designers from everywhere, and everybody has to kind of contribute their best presets to put into that keyboard. And I feel like they should have done that with Moog 1. I felt like, I don't know who was responsible for creating those sounds, but they should have got more people to include more presets on there, in my opinion. And so, yeah, but I still love Moog. The Moog 1's still, it's a good keyboard. I can't say that it would be great if it came out the box with the best presets. It has the potential to be great, but for me, it wasn't worth the back when I got it, they're a little more expensive now, actually. Back when I got it, it was about 6,000. Now they're 8 and 10,000. So I think, but you can get them on the used market for a couple thousand less though sometimes. So, yeah, but that's just what it is. But I still like that keyboard. I just don't love it. So that's why I sold it. I could buy it back, but I just have like I said, the presets on there were pretty underwhelming. So I don't think I'll ever buy that keyboard back, because even though you can make good stuff with it, it ticked me off too much, because it just needs more great presets on board. Because tweaking for hours and hours, when I just want to go straight in, I just want to go straight in and I just want to go straight in and really create, a great song. I don't want to spend hours and hours tweaking. Tweaking is fun to a certain extent, but when you're on the synthesizer for hours and hours and you haven't come up with the melody yet, at that point, it's taking time away from you making a track. So you have to make a decision. Do you really want to produce a track, or you just want to sound design? And that was the problem with the Moog One, is that I became a sound designer when I just really wanted to make tracks. I really wanted to just produce, but that keyboard made me sound design because the presets were so boring on there that it made me become a sound designer. So I guess that part was a benefit because people started supporting my preset packs, which is dope. So shout out to everybody that's bought my presets. I appreciate that. But I didn't buy that keyboard to be a sound designer. I bought it to produce tracks, and it forced me to be a sound designer. So again, I got rid of it because it took too much time to pull out the sounds that I really love. And I only had a few that I liked. There was only a few that I really liked on there, and I made them from scratch. It was none of the presets. I never used the onboard presets. I had to tweak a bunch of, presets from scratch and use my own. And that's why it was frustrating, because it took a long time to make them sound like how I wanted them to make. It took a long time to make them sound how I wanted them to sound. And, but I did some, pretty cool sounding stuff on there. But, maybe one day when there's nothing left to buy, maybe I'll get it back when I want to focus on sound design again. But for right now, I'm focusing on the synthesizers that are more immediate, like the Prophet 6, Krumar, the Yamaha CP73, and the Mantis is pretty dope as well. But what I love about these keyboards is they're just immediate. You can go on and they sound great right away. Shout out to Dave Smith and Sequential, rest in peace, Dave Smith. But the keyboards that Dave Smith was behind, he always made sure that he loaded the absolute best presets for his keyboard. He made sure he got the absolute best sound designers to put sounds on his keyboards, and he already had everything set up in such a way that it was going to sound amazing when those sounds went through, those boards. But when I go through the Prophet 6, it's great because there's just so many usable sounds, and I don't have to. I tweak a little bit, but I don't have to spend hours and hours tweaking to actually get a decent track. I could just start laying stuff down and it sounds good right away. Whereas on the Moog One, you spend a lot of time just tweaking, and then before you know it, you fall asleep, or before you know it, it's 4 a.m. and you're still tweaking. And that was the problem I had with the Moog One. But I'm still glad that I got to make tracks with it, and it was still useful, but just frustrating as far as you lose a lot of time on there if you're trying to just get stuff done. It could be frustrating with that particular board if you have a certain schedule that you're on, and you have a deadline, and you need to make X amount of tracks every day. With the board like that, you really got to, I would recommend, if you don't have a lot of time, you're best off just trying to find as many preset packs from other people as possible, because if you buy that keyboard brand new, it's gonna, you're gonna be disappointed with the sounds, and that's what I've heard from other people too. And but I didn't want to bag on Moog too hard, because I still love their product, but that's just my experience. So, maybe, like I said, maybe one day I'll want to sound design and I'll get that keyboard back. Or maybe somebody will drop a really dope preset pack with the Moog One, and that will inspire me to get it back. But I haven't heard too many other preset packs with the Moog One. If anybody knows about other ones, enlighten me. But again, I think I have one of the best preset packs for the Moog One, and it shows because a lot of people had supported and bought that pack over the last 3 years. So shout out to those people. What's good, A Major? It's good, man. Yeah, I'm just up late. Just got done working on music, and I figured I'd just say what's up to y'all, and that's about it, man. Oh yeah, the Andromeda. Funny story. I got to play that way back in 2011, 2010, 2011. And guess who had that keyboard? It was Frankie J, Mr. Sugar Sugar himself. I went down to he used to live in Chula Vista, California, which is like close to San Diego. Went down to his house, and he had that on Andromeda synth. And I'm like, yo, I said, yo, what is this, man? I said, yo, Jay, what is this? And he was like, oh yeah, T, that's the Andromeda. He's like, yeah, that's cool. And I was like, bro, you gotta let me play this. And so I think I played a couple sounds on it, and I was like mind blown. But Frankie J at the time, he had every keyboard that of my dreams at his studio. It was just everything that I had looked up online at that point was at his studio. So I was pretty much just like overloaded, because back then I didn't have access to that much money and credit. And so I couldn't afford that kind of stuff. So I think I had a Roland Phantom XA, and that's all I had back then. Yeah. Ryan Leslie was definitely using it in his in those old beat videos that he would do. Some of those records never came out. There was this one with this girl where I think he was using that synthesizer specifically. Was her name like Bridget Kelly or something like that? She was like some Carrie Hilson looking type chick. And I think he was using that Andromeda on that beat. And I always wanted to hear how that song turned out, but I don't think they ever dropped it. But it was pretty dope from what I heard on the video. I'm wondering, do you know what video I'm talking about? I think her name was Bridget Kelly or something. I don't know. Maybe that name might be wrong, but I do remember a video where he was using that Andromeda, man. And he was going in. It was like some kind of appreciated sound. It was like one of those appreciated sounds. But man, yeah. See, yeah, I remember that. But yeah, I still want to play. I kind of forgot about that board, but that's definitely on my list of synthesizers to revisit. But yeah, he had it and he didn't even want to touch it. Yeah, the montage is dope. I used the XF for a long time. For several years, I was using that XF, the Motif XF. And my favorite preset, I think it's still on the montage, because they carried over some of the same presets. That soft R&B lead, that was like my favorite preset. And that's the lead sound that I use for Cookie Kawaii vibe, is that soft R&B lead on the Motif XF. Yeah, man. So yeah, I love that sound on there. Yeah. But yeah, the Andromeda though was like, when I saw it in his studio, I was like, bro, how come we ain't using this? And he didn't even want to use it. Like he just stuck to his Phantom keyboards. Yep, definitely. Yeah, you can't. Yamaha overall, their company, they make great keyboards. Like, I've been using the CP73, which is a stage piano, and I used to not be into stage pianos, but when I demoed this at the local music shop, I was like, man, maybe I should get me a stage piano, because it just had a certain sound to it that I wasn't I wasn't familiar with when it came to my workstations. Like the pianos sounded heavier, and the Rhodes had more of a heavier, weightier sound to it. And so then I kind of got addicted. And so by playing it at the store, and I was like, you know what, let me just get this. But yeah, so Yeah, Yamaha makes great products, so I've been happy with it. Everything that I've bought from them, it's been a smash. You know what I mean? Yeah, oh yeah, they got a new Korg Kronos. I've heard about that's coming out, and as far as I know, they're putting new sounds on it as well. So I was looking that up a couple months ago. So I'm sure that's going to be dope. I had the Korg Kronos back like in 2015. I ended up selling it in 2019, and it was a pretty dope keyboard. I like, it's more of a clear sounding keyboard. Oh, it's out right now. Nice. Yeah, let me know if you get it, man. Let me know how it goes. But you know what? I'm gonna be straight up honest. I started using the Korg Triton a lot last year, and I was comparing it to the Kronos, and I was like, you know what? I really feel like they nailed it more with the Triton. Like the Triton to me sounded more radio ready. I don't know. I like the sounds on the Triton were more heavier and more. They had a more it had more just a weightier sound to it. I don't know. I'm a fan of kind of weightier, kind of more of a weightier, fat sound when I play keyboards. And I had that Triton Extreme, which I don't have it with me right now because I've been moving around. I've been moving around, going from U.S. to U.K. Then I live I live like basically in both countries. I'm American, American citizen, born here in America, but my wife's from the UK, so I've been living out there for 6 months at a time, and then coming back down into America, back and forth a lot. But yeah, man. Yeah, I would say, bro, honestly, the Triton, in my opinion, I know we always want the next new thing, but if I was gonna get a Korg, I would get the Triton again. I'm taking a little break from it right now because I did a full year of production where it was just the Triton, but I'm starting to miss those sounds again. The Triton is the truth. And in my experience of owning the Triton and the first Korg Kronos, man, the Triton to me was just the better. It was the better keyboard. It had, I don't know, it just had that sound to it, and it had so many of those presets. Anytime you go through the presets, you find all those presets that were used by Pharrell, Sean Paul, all those records of that time. You'll lock into one of those sounds and you kind of get that nostalgia, and you're like, damn, they made like number one, they made like top 10, top 40 hits with these presets, and it just, there's just something about it, you know what I mean? But shout out to Korg. But I think, yeah, that the Triton Extreme and I can't remember if I was playing the Extreme or the Pro, I don't know. But the Triton is an incredible keyboard, man. Yeah, they're perfect keyboards for R&B, 100%. Just think of all the the Brian Michael Cox productions, and the early Jagged Edge, or that second Jagged Edge album. You can hear all those kind of Triton sounds on those productions, and like, or if you listen to Usher Confessions, you're going to hear some of those, you're going to hear some of those Triton type sounds. Obviously Pharrell's production. Pharrell was like, he was working that Triton. One of his main songs, that frontin' song, he has that little guitar patch. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, so he was working that guitar patch, the same that same guitar patch that Sean Paul had on Just Give Me the Light When It Plots to Stroll, that guitar patch. Yeah, I'll be sure. They were using that D50. Yeah. It's so cool that Quincy connected me with his dad, man, because after we met up and did the remake of Night and Day, I was able to lock in, get Al B. Sure's WhatsApp, and was able to communicate with him, over the years through WhatsApp. And I was asking him questions about what did they use on an in effect mode, and he let me know some of the sauce. You know what I mean? So on Night and Day, he was saying that, of course, there's the D50, but he also said that they used the Juno for the bass, for the Night and Day bass. So the doom 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 doom. So he said that was a Juno. So obviously the Juno is fully analog. So he was like, yeah, they wanted the bass to be like, like have that round texture to it, and they wanted it to sound like the Janet Jackson Lately bass, which was actually OBX8, according to Jimmy Jam. He said I guess they used the OBX8 for that song Lately. What have you done for me lately? And then a lot of R&B producers were trying to emulate that bass texture. But I'll Be Sure and Kyle West, they did it he said that they did it on a Juno. So I thought that was dope. And then one thing, what else did he tell me? He was also telling me how they gated the hi-hats and the pad sound together and stuff. Yeah, man. Yeah, I would love to chop it up with Keith Sweat. Hopefully I meet him one day, because he was producing his own stuff along with Teddy Riley in the beginning as well. And he was doing some pretty dope beats. His beats were more simple. He wasn't as I would say that I'll Be Sure and Kyle West were definitely they were more jazzy and more musical. They had a little bit more complexity to their music. Like the average person couldn't just go down and remake one of their beats, because it did have a little bit more complexity, more jazziness to it, more things going on. But Keith Sweat's beats were more, he was kind of straight to the point with his beats. He would have like that the DX7 electric piano on a lot of his joints. Like I'll Give All My Love to You, stuff like that. So he was using that DX7 sound a lot, and he would just keep the chords real simple, like simple chords. Dun, 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 dun. Like he would keep it real simple. He might throw like a sign lead in there or something like that. Or even if you think about Twisted, when they did the original version of Twisted, not the Marvin Gaye remix, but when they did the original version, he threw that. Again, it was kind of more of a simplistic beat. I'm not sure what kind of, he had some kind of electric piano sound for that. It wasn't necessarily the DX7 sound, but it was maybe like it's some kind of dyno type sound from probably from a Yamaha or something. And then they had that like a little sign lead for the hook. There was like a little, like that little sign lead, and which made sense for the time that it came out, because obviously it came out in the era of when West Coast production was really dominant, and the sign lead was very dominant in West Coast production. So I thought Keith Sweat was a genius by incorporating those sign lead synth patches into his R&B production. And you know who else did that a lot as well as Devontae. Yeah, he definitely had, Keith Sweat probably had it rolling. He probably had Roland, Triton, Yamaha. He probably had everything, because he was definitely getting his money. He was getting his money. A lot of people would be surprised that Keith Sweat has so many platinum plaques from his albums. Even the albums that were more low key, he has so many platinum albums. It's ridiculous. So I know his studio back then must have been lit. He probably had everything that all the stuff that I could ever dream of back in the 90s. He probably had it, but especially the album that the Twisted album that had Nobody and all those records. I thought it was super dope how he really incorporated, that sign lead sound that really was a G-funk, DJ, like a Dr. Dre, Warren G, and DJ Quick type of thing during that era. He was able to take that West Coast sign lead sound and actually put it over his slow R&B beats, which I thought was genius, which is what I try to do now, Yeah, Babyface, he always has that custom electric piano. And what I love about Babyface is he wasn't super flashy about his production. He kind of just did what was necessary, and he made it more about the songwriting. So he would use that signature patch, like almost like in the majority of his hit records that he's produced for other people, including his own solo albums. He used that electric piano patch that you mentioned, like pretty much almost, and I don't know, like at least half to 60, 70% of his records, maybe more. He just kept bringing it. He kept using it. And of course, there would be some pads underneath it and different things like that. And then he would use maybe some different, some lead sounds here and there. Oh, yeah. I don't exactly remember what he used for his bass, but yeah, you say that he definitely used that lately bass in Tevin Campbell, Can We Talk? I know that. I remember that. So that was one of obviously his biggest productions. And it's funny, my favorite Babyface productions is actually the stuff that he did for Bobby Brown. Like I actually really enjoyed a lot of his tempo records, like Every Little Step I Take, You Will Be. Like that's probably my favorite Babyface production is Every Little Step. That's one of my all-time favorite records, hands down. As time progressed, his sound he started doing a lot more kind of like emotional, kind of tear jerk records, and Babyface has so much material, it's ridiculous. But his signature kind of ended up being more of the tear jerker, end of the road, kind of make you cry kind of R&B records that end up being like his signature, Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, and Babyface is such a genius. Like his catalog is insane. But yeah, like what I liked about him, like I said, is just he wasn't trying to be super flashy. Like Teddy Riley was more of the flashy, like, and what I mean by flashy is that, he would throw, like a Teddy Riley would throw a lot of things on the beat to just make it super, super catchy. Like if I think about the Michael Jackson Dangerous album and like, Keep It in the Closet and, Remember the Time, or the, he had a song on there called She Got the Look, where they used like an engine there's like an engine starting when and there's like a horn honking on the beat. It was like, she got the look. So, and you know damn well she blowing my mouth. She's got the look. Like, so Teddy was really flashy. That's what I loved about Teddy is that he was super flashy on his beats. Like he wasn't scared to show off. Like he was just super like rambunctious with the beats, where he wasn't scared to just show off, and he'll have a door slam on the track and stuff, like Keep It in the Closet. Like he just did not care. He was going to go all out. And so I guess, that was one of the biggest things that was dope about the 90s producers, specifically in the R&B field, is that they all had their own signature sound. Babyface didn't sound anything like Teddy. Teddy had he had his own thing completely. and Babyface had his own, his own sound completely. Exactly. Teddy definitely, he had that music for the clubs, and he could but he also slowed it down too when he did slow it down. Especially well, he always had a slow jam, but they tend to push they did tend to push a lot of his club records the most. And the slow jams, initially in the beginning, the slow jams were kind of like the album tracks, but by that second Guy album, yeah, Chucky Thompson, definitely, he was dope as well. That second Guy album, they put out Let's Chill as one of the main singles. I don't think it was the first single, but it was definitely one of the main singles. They did the video to it, and they got Tony Thompson singing in the background, Tony Thompson of High Five. Let's chill. Let's chill. Some of my voice is messed up right now, but what's that key? Let's chill. Let's settle down. That's what I want to do. Let's chill. Something like that. But that's Tony Thompson. Tony Thompson had that featherweight kind of really sincere voice. You know what I mean? So shout out to Tony Thompson, and rest in peace to Tony Thompson as well, man. Gone too soon. But man, yeah, Teddy. That's what I love about Teddy is he can kind of do it all. He can kind of do it, and Babyface could do it all, but they just did it in their own way, and that I think that's something that a lot of today's producers could learn. A lot of today's producers can learn just to be their own sound, be their own person. And I think, there's something to say about people that have their own sound. There's definitely people right now that are doing dope tracks, but it's to the point where there's not a whole lot of people that are signature anymore. Everybody's trying to I wouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people try to just do what's the hot sound. They go, okay, what's the hot sound? Let me just mimic that. And there's a lot of that. And I don't knock them for doing that. But I think at a certain point, people have to graduate and try to create a signature. And I think people that have the signature typically are the ones that stand above the crowd. You know what I mean? Those are the people for instance, like Drake, his main producer when he started off, which was 40. I think that's his name. It's a bit, but Drake's main producer, 40, he created that underwater sound that everybody kind of just gravitated and copied, you know what I mean? So shout out to the OVO camp and everything. Oh yeah, Timbaland. Oh yeah, 100%. Timbaland definitely had, he had a super signature sound. And it's a lot of people don't know that Timbaland was producing on a lot of those Jodeci records from this, not on the first album, but by the time that second album came around, he did that Fiending track with Devontae. Those Timbaland drums, that Fiending, those drums, that's Timbo. A lot of people don't. You probably know that, but a lot of people don't know that Timbaland was, doing a lot of behind the scenes production. Once that second album started. What's good, Kyle? What's good, man? But that Diary of a Madman, Timbaland was doing all kinds of stuff on that album, but specifically on the Fiending song. The Fiending, he did the drum programming. And then Timbo, he actually linked up with Devontae again, because obviously these are the Basement years with Missy Elliott, Genuine, Static Major. And so, this is when they were all doing that Basement era. And you can see the whole Basement crew in the Jodeci Love You for Life video when Devontae's pulling out with that drop top Benz. You can pause it. If you pause that part, you'll see Genuine, Missy and Timbaland and all that. But yeah, so Timbaland did the production with Devontae on that Usher single, Can You Get With It? So that was Timbaland was programming on that record as well. So that was really the production of Devontae and Timbaland. Obviously, he guided Timbaland and showed him the ropes. So Devontae really kind of schooled him on how to produce on a high level. Showed him the right equipment and gave him the right equipment to use. And he already had the talent, but Devontae put him on that real studio. All the right keyboards, all the right equipment. And so, Timbaland definitely owes a lot to Devontae, but Timbaland was proving his skills back then. So he was doing all that work with Devontae. And Timbaland, he also produced a remix for, he did the Right Now remix for I'll Be Sure, which that didn't get a lot of rotation. The remix didn't get a lot of rotation, but it is on YouTube. He did that remix with another dude named Prince Marky D, I believe. And the remix for I'll Be Sure Right Now, which is pretty dope. But I had recently just found that out, to be honest with you. But yeah, so under the Devontae Swing tutelage, Timbaland was able to kind of formulate his own sound. But you can see how initially when he first came out and he was producing Genuine and all the Aaliyah stuff and the Missy stuff, you can kind of see how he was influenced by Devontae and kind of carried that sound. He kind of carried that feel over when he started producing for Genuine, right? He carried some of that Jodeci vibe over a little bit, but he definitely made it more Timbo. It was more Timbaland. Devontae was more keys oriented, right? Devontae was more church oriented. My wife's on chat. Hey baby, hey, how you doing? I'll give you. I gotta get off here and talk to my wife in a second. But I appreciate y'all rocking with me. Shout out to A Major. Shout out to Kyle and everybody else watching. If you want to see more of these live streams of me just shooting the ish with y'all, make sure you show some love. And, if you mess with this content, you can drop a super chat, or you can go over to my website, tonyswaymusic.com and lease some beats, or you can get some preset packs or some sample packs or some drum kits to show you your support. So you can help me keep these lights on and help keep my family taken care of. And, so I can keep doing this for y'all. I really enjoy to really chop it up. And I know there wasn't as much people on today because it is kind of late, but I appreciate y'all. So, make sure if you can, make sure you can show that support. Like I said, super chat your boy. And at the least, make sure you share, or at least like this video, drop a comment or whatever. Do something to show support because I appreciate it. And I want to continue to do this for everybody. But in order to keep doing it, of course, I need support from the people, and I can continue to do it and do it on a higher level. So God bless y'all. One love. Peace.